So guys, I didn't bring my tripod in or anything, but what we're doing is I'm using the gimbal as a tripod. It works pretty good. It's got a little tripod that comes with it, so it allows it to be a little more stable if I'm moving around and I don't shake things. So, as I said, let me actually move you guys back a little bit. That will help. So like I said earlier, I have a knife here from Matthew that I like enough and have for a very long time that I even wrote down a bunch of stuff. So what we're going to talk about is the Gerber Mark II. So hang on a second, let me get everything set up. Turn your volume down if you don't like the music to disturb your dog. And let's get into this. So, the Gerber Mark II. Now, the Gerber Mark II is a strictly, I don't care how they try and sell it these days, this is a combat knife. This is what it was designed for. Very reminiscent of the Sykes Fairbairn, or Fairbairn Sykes. And that's a lot because it has that unique handle style that the Fairbairn had, the Fairbairn Sykes had. So what you get is this, but let's get into a little bit of it. So in 1966, Gerber Legendary Blades started making the original Mark II. Now, what you got was, I mean, they made it up to 2000, and then they brought it back in 2008. And so this knife's been around for a while. You had the Desert Dagger, you had this. They were all pretty much real similar. So what you got was a 6.5 inch. Hang on just a second. Let me close that. Let me close that. So, sorry about that. That's why I came in. I was in the process of sharpening. It's, 2:30. 2:30 now. You guys aren't going to see this video probably till tomorrow. I may put it up tonight. What I was saying is, so you get a 6.5 inch wasp-waisted blade. Now, you can't see that it's so... Until you look down at it, you can see where it makes its curve in. That's what I was trying to do with that little dagger that I had, the boot dagger. And so I'd seen these for years, and I really liked them. I liked that wasp-waisted profile. So it's a 6.5 inch wasp-waisted blade. It is, I'm not sure of the steel on this. I could have looked it up, but I was just kind of going through the history of it. So if you happen to have gotten one of the really old ones, you would notice some definite differences between what's in my hand and what was out like Vietnam area. So in the Vietnam area, it had a 5-degree cant one direction. To give it more of like a fencing foil grip where it had a little bit of offset, and it's instead of sitting straight up and down, it sat off 5 degrees from the sheath for ease of removal and use. But the problem was enough people didn't know that that's how it was designed when they were issued, because these were part of a military issue thing. They kept returning them because they were bent, and so they took that bent, that 5-degree angle out because, you know, they thought it would be something that somebody could have that would give them a different, and it would drop that point down so that your wrist didn't have to be as straight. You could still have a straight piercing with that. Now, in the 70s, they stopped being able to sell these at the exchange. They said it looked too brutal. So the PX system in the 70s was trying to do this thing, it's kinder, gentler, and you still kind of have that, what they sell at PX, NEX, post exchanges at Army bases, Marine Corps installations, things like that. So what they did, since they weren't selling these because they looked too brutal, what they did was they added these serrations. And it wasn't for a functionality thing. No one really wanted them. They're not very good. They're a sawtooth for cutting. They're like basically cutting wood. Now, that's maybe 2 inches of serrations, just in a little wasp-waisted area. And so they did that because then they could put that it was a survival tool. survival thing, and then it wasn't a combat. It didn't look as brutal. It looked more like what you were akin to in survival knives that were starting to become more prevalent. And so these have been around for a while. And the thing is, there is also a Mark I, which came out later, but it's a 4.75 inch. Now, I've seen all of them. I've seen both of them. Matt just happened to have a nice Mark II that I could use as an example. But these things are, Gerbers have kind of gotten to a point where quality is a question and are they good knives? But this has never been one that I ever questioned. I've always wanted one of these. I just never had the money for them. And the fact is, they are definitely something I would never carry. So we are going to turn this around and I'm going to show you the knife up close. We're going to take a look at it from above. We'll look at the sheath. The sheath actually is every bit as nice as the knife itself. So we'll turn that around. There is nothing in that. There's no wobble. It's perfect. So let me move a couple things because I got to bring you back and we'll flip this over and we'll take a look at it from a different angle. Guys, I think my Apple Watch is trying to die on me. It doesn't want to connect to the camera. Oh, let's see. Can we get the infinity mirror going, an infinite loop mirror going? Let's see. No, it's not going to want to focus, but you can kind of see where I'm going with it. So, like I was saying, the sheath on this, let's look at the sheath before we even look at the knife, because it's almost as important a feature. So this is a really strongly reinforced Molly gear capable. You could hook these, all these straps you could use and attach on your Molly gear multiple different ways. There is a leg loop that comes with it. So if you're wearing it on your waist, you can strap that around your leg. You've got the reinforced sheath with two different straps on it. So when you've got it in, if you're going to be carrying it and you're not in any danger of being in, there's no rattle in it, guys. That is so tight in there. You have this one for the quick access, and then you have stuff like this, which is more for the guys that are going to be jumping and doing things like fast roping and things like that, that would allow you to more securely attach that in there. So there's no chance, even if this slips, that knife is going to come completely out. So very, very nice sheath, really resilient, reinforced, hard plastic in there. And then you've got the knife. Let's take a look at the knife. Now, like I said, you can see from this angle when you look at it how that wasp-waisted profile, it just gives it a dangerous, aggressive look that I always found appealing. And then, like I said, though, I have no need for this knife at all, ever again. I'm not going to be doing anything where I would need that. It is a bit long. 6.5 inch blade is a lot. And then when you've got that handle, you guys know I've got fairly large hands, but the grip on that, the way they utilized that Fairbairn Sykes style handle with the guard. So where, the guard on that is right where you want it to be so that you know where it indexes and things like that. You know where your edges are, just by the way it feels in hand. It's just a natural point of reference, how it feels a little bit different this way than it does this way. You definitely can tell that if you've got it in your hand wrong. So these were definitely just 100% a combat implement, and then they started marketing them as a tool. But I'm going to compare it to a couple of other combat knives. So we're going to look at it, and I've got a couple here that we can use where I can show you that I think this one excels above a couple others. So let's talk about why I think this is just pretty good for combat. If you are going to rely on this strictly for combat, there's not much you can do utility. We're talking straight combat. This is a very good knife because it is long. You can get through material. It's got that really nice swept blade piercing tip. And I would say get rid of these. These are going to be a hindrance to piercing, say, a Kevlar vest or something like that. But these would have been just perfect for a stabbing implement. And I think because of some of the features, like I said, you have some indexing and things like that, it excels above. Now I have a couple others. Now I know that my Marines out there are gonna hate me for this. I don't like the K-bar, and I'll show you why. So out of these, I think this one beats it a little bit. This one beats the Mark II. The Mark II beats this one. This one has got so many issues with it. It's really broad. If you don't have big hands, it's not gonna be comfortable. You don't have any indexing. If I get this like this and I close my eyes, it feels exactly the same. Now I have seen some of the Marines that will bend one side down a little bit further so they know exactly where it's at. But this is just a really big, broad, wide K-bar. And it's not real great for piercing. It doesn't really, it's not 1940 anymore. And that's where I think these two both are kind of a failure. This is more akin to something that would be, I would consider a combat knife. And then I have another one out here, which some of you guys are gonna say probably that isn't a combat knife, but a Bowie knife. And if you were to look at this compared to this, there's not that much difference. But this seems to be, to me, to have more of a indexing. I know where it's at, much more comfortable handle, things like that. So combat knives in general are just not great. But I think that this would, in my opinion, beat the K-bar. Now, this beats both of them. So this is a cold steel SRK. It's a lot like a Bowie. It's a lot like that. But the thing is, it's not as long. It is a functional blade. It has a different style grip. There is a lot like this Bowie. Knowing as you can index, you know where you're at. The grip has got that palm swell and things like that that make this better than either one of these, because you can use it for more than, and yes, I've loaned this out to people that have sharpened this incorrectly. This has went on deployments with other people other than me, but it is what it is. It's been used heavily, as you can see. This is pried open Humvee doors and things like that. So back in the day, Cold Steel used to get their shit right. And this is a made in USA version. Sheaths were good. The sheath on this is better, in my opinion, than the sheath on the K-bar. Not better than the Mark II. But you want to see? I can't do this without a shameless plug. Would you like to see the one that I think beats all three of these for what it is when you're trying to talk about what the modern warfighter needs? And that's kind of where I was going when I made this. This is still very capable, very useful. You've got indexing. You've got, now granted, these handle scales are a little bit thin in my opinion. That's why we changed it. You got a very capable blade that you can use. You can use this one, but you can't use this to do much of anything. This, you can't do much of anything with this. No cutting tasks or things like this. So if you had cutting tasks, you would still need another knife. This, you can do it. This is more like a more what you would get akin to a field knife, not necessarily a combat knife. But then I tried in this. I honestly do think that this knife here beats all three of those, because the fact is, it's not 1940. It's not 1945. It's not the Korean War era. Most people are not going to be using a knife in a combat setting. You know what they're going to be doing with it? They're going to be cutting 550 cord into camp. They're going to be cutting open MRAs. They're going to be cutting things. And this knife, I think, is a little bit more utilitarian and things like that. So I couldn't help but compare my envisioning of the modern combat knife in this. But do I still love this? Oh, absolutely. I would love to have one of these, even if it was just to put in a case and keep it. So these two beat these two. This one beats this one, in my opinion. And that's, I might be a little partial, maybe a little partial, you know, I did design this, but hang on just a second. So guys, you know, is it great? Yeah. Is it better than it's so heavy? These are so heavy and awkward. You know what I mean? It's not that this, when it was at its inception, was not a good knife. For what it was, yeah, it was amazing. It was It was a knife that you could reach out and touch somebody with. You got a lot of grip on this if you had hands that were big enough for it. But there's some, you can't tell one way from the other which way it goes. This is more of a camp knife. And then this. But, like I said, there is still just something. There's something in people that goes all the way back to, I think, medieval times, where if you were to draw something that you think of as a combat, that's kind of what you're going to come up with. Daggers. Daggers were the pocket handgun of the medieval world. Daggers were the way to go with combat knives for a long time. If you get this sharp, it doesn't matter which way I have that in my hand. Both sides are sharp. It's got that nice spear tip. It's gonna puncture. You're hitting something vital when you get in there. And then really comfortable grip, right? Is it a workhorse knife? Absolutely not. Serves one purpose. So, guys, shameless plug for my knife got thrown in there, but I couldn't help but do it. Like I said, the modern combat knife is not going to be used for combat very much. And as much as my Marine buddies probably will tell me to the day they die that there's nothing better than a K-bar, deep down inside, they know that they can't do anything with the K-bar. But, you know, it's not a very good knife for a field knife for doing any cutting duties and things like that. So, there we go. I do love that knife, though. I do love this. They've been around for a long time. The only knife I could think of as a combat knife that I would say I would want outside of this and the ones I already have would be the SOG Demo, the Scuba Demo. And I mean, you're never going to find one of those. They only made those for the Vietnam era, and they are so sought after. So, guys, that's it. A little bit longer video, but like I said, I had to do a history of it. It is a pivotal point where Gerber came out and kind of stepped outside of the box. Gerber still gets stuff right. Gerber knives are still good. They are still really good knives, but they're still making this. 2008, they brought it back, and 2008, they've been making it consistently since then. I mean, that's a really decent knife. So, all right, guys, that's it. Take it easy. If you like the videos, give them a thumbs up. If you don't like them, give them a thumbs down. Up in this corner is going to be a video that YouTube thinks you like. Down here is a video I think you're gonna like. It might not necessarily be one of mine. Up in this corner is gonna be a subscription link. Down in this corner will be a Patreon link if that's something you would like to do. And in the description below is a link to my daughter's GoFundMe so that we can support her Olympic hopes and dreams. She's really, really getting good. And I wanna help. I don't want her to have to stop skating. So if you guys are willing to do that, if not, just share it. So you guys take it easy. I love you all, and I'll see you in the next one.